Hey guys, welcome back to 702 Motoring in Las Vegas. So everybody's seen our videos on the bikes when they're completed. And we don't do a lot of videos during the installation process or go into too much detail how we do our installations. So, throughout time, a lot of customers have brought that to our attention and said, hey, show us more. So that's what we're going to do now. So right now, this is a 21 Road Glide. And we're going to go over some things on how we do our installations here at 702 Motoring. As you can tell, we do our installations right here on the sales floor under a Diamond Audio tent because we don't hide anything. We're not going to hide your bike in the shop. We're going to do it right here. It's protected. We've got a rope that goes across. Nobody goes in there unless they're invited. Nobody touches anything. So on this bike, we can start with the front. Factory radio flashed, running two 800.4 Evo X 4-channel amplifiers. Our configuration, we're not using a Lex Rivera amp rack on this. We've got 1 amp mounted back here underneath the radio. You can see our wiring, see our ferrules. We recommend using ferrules on sound digital amplifiers. It's better for the connections. It's a lot less chance of having any issues. Sound digital amps are temperamental, guys. They're temperamental. So certain things from experience have to be used and addressed when dealing with sound digital amplifiers. They're very powerful, very small amplifiers, but experience with them is necessary. The second amplifier, again, this is our wiring. We take a lot of time to do the wiring. It's going to mount this way right on top of the headlight. When we use sound digital amps on a factory radio, we do not use plug-and-play harnesses with RCAs on the end. Okay, we find that the signal is not strong enough for the sound digital amplifier to give it the performance it needs for no issues. So we go high-level input. We're coming off the Harley radio plug-and-play, of course. Everything's plug-and-play. We don't cut any wires. We don't, nothing. We don't cut a single wire in this motorcycle. So everything's plug and play. This is off your factory radio. We've got a dual, we custom build these harnesses here. It's a dual high level input to run 2 amplifiers. That works out very successful for us. Now, this bike's not using a DSP. We don't feel that you have to have a DSP. These amps are fully tunable, front and rear channels. Now, you can use DSP certainly. It'll sound better without a doubt. Then if we did a DSP, we would use a different plug and play harness for 2 amplifiers, and we would use RCAs into the amplifier because we're going to boost the RCA output going to the amplifiers. So in this case, we're not using a DSP, so we're using a high level in. Works just fine. There's our remote turn on wire. It's plug and play. Again, we don't harness, we don't cut any wires. Our harness is going into the speaker pods. We're all plug and play. Everything. Nothing is cut. Nothing is modified. So that's the front configuration. Now, like I said, we have 2 800.4 Evo X's. So on this bike, we can start with for the rear. This is an MS Pro 65 mid in the rear touring pack. It does require 2 half-inch spacers and a grill, of course. This is a Diamond Audio grill. It does not look bad. It's fully acceptable. MS Pro 65 mids, that's what you have to do. We didn't have to remove any of the factory parts to it at all. Matter of fact, we didn't even modify the factory wiring to the bike. Everything we've done is new wiring. It's all new wiring. All our wiring's new. We don't modify anything with the factory wiring. Even though the touring pack is really, hey, is Harley going to avoid your warranty because you modified touring pack wires? Who knows? We're not going to put that customer in that particular situation. So therefore, nothing is modified. Nothing is cut. Nothing is removed. In the saddlebags, we've got a Vega P75T shallow horn and a Diamond Audio MP694 coax horn speaker. This is our wiring configuration. As we do with our front horns in the grills, this is what we use for a backing plate. It's an HDPE CNC machine backing plate that we do here in-house. For the MO75T shallow horn in the front grills it's a little smaller. But on the P75T Summer Vega, we also, this is the first bike we are putting these on. We just fabricated these. It's a little nicer touch. It holds it a little more secure. It gives me a little, there's actually a little leg down there that we can tie our wires into. This is the crossover to the horn on the P75T. And the crossover to the MP694 goes underneath here and is underneath the cover, so it's not visible. So 2 inputs. You can see we have ferrules going into the MP694s. Again, first time on this bike. So we've done some new configurations on this motorcycle, and you know what, tell you what, it's coming out a little bit nicer. So every time we do a bike, we figure out something else we can do to make it that much nicer for a customer. So separate channel input for your horns, separate channel for input for your mids. We firmly believe, and our opinion is, we separate these channels. You can run one line in from an amplifier and you can run both. Yes, you can. But if you separate your channels to the amplifier, you can tune your horns separately from your mids. We feel that is extremely important. First of all, if you're going to use a DSP, you've got to wire it this way, or else you can't separate the sound. Second of all, this horn and this mid is going to require different gains on the amplifier, different amount of power, different frequency settings. We tune it separately. It's a lot better sound, in our opinion. This one doesn't have the 1/2-inch spacer. We're experimenting with a 1/4-inch spacer, and it works. It's successful. You know, it's a 1/4 inch, less from having the speaker farther down in the bag. 1/4 inch is a 1/4 inch. The screws we use washers on the screws. We don't just put a screw in there, and we take the steps to make things a little bit nicer. As you can tell, our quick disconnects are nice. We use 1 inch by 1 inch pieces to hold the wire ties on, to hold all our wires, using Tessa tape straight down into here. We're keeping stuff out of this area. You got all this area. To us, this is the way we do it. It's extremely clean. Another thing I want to point out on cutting kits, whether it be our 6x9 cutting kit or anybody else's 6x9 cutting kit, we work a little bit extra to get a perfect fit in the kits. Now understand, when you cut this with your jigsaw or your Dremel, whatever you decide to use to cut it, the kit will fit, but sometimes a little bit of material left there that if you spend a little more time with a file, a file by hand, you can make that lid fit that much better. You can take your time and look at where this piece, when you put on your lid, might be touching some fiberglass plastic. Just take your little file and work in those areas. Slow and easy. You have some space, but you don't have a ton of room. You could, if you go too much, you could make it visible on here. Just take your time and just hit the areas. If you're going to hit the corners, you use a round file, and take your time. These are $35,000 motorcycles here, guys, and we know that. So we take our time when we work on these motorcycles. Sure, every customer wants their bike back right away. We understand that. It's 60 degrees out now in Las Vegas. Believe me, this bike's got 31 miles on it. This guy, believe me, would love to have his bike back right now. He would love to have it back. But at the same time, he appreciates us taking some extra time to do the job above and beyond from what's considered right. So that goes all the way down to the MS Pro 65 mids in the front. We do not use the factory screw. We use these small Allen head screws that fit that speaker. And even to that point, it takes time and it takes care to line these 4 bolts up and position that speaker, and take your time to go cross thread each one, not cross thread, but crisscross, slowly tightening until you get that perfect fit. You understand, you're putting a large speaker in this enclosure. You're using mounting bolts that still hit the surround. But if you use your stock bolts, you're going to rip that surround up. You're not going to be happy with the result. You're going to see it when your grill's on there. So our grills aren't done yet. We're working on those now. You have our Diamond Audio grill with a MO75T shell and horn. We'll put those on tomorrow. Like this, we'll tune this bike and we'll start reassembling it. So these are speaker wires. Again, this is not finalized, guys. Don't pick apart anything. Nothing of this is finalized. We use T-Spec V12 wire. This is all, you know, people say oxygen free. Okay, oxygen free doesn't mean anything. Oxygen free cable doesn't mean anything. If it says oxygen free copper, then you've got something. Oxygen free copper. Oxygen free cable means nothing. Oxygen free means nothing. If it's not 100% all copper, 100%, you're not using good enough cable. We use small, again, T-spec fuse holders, 40 amp fuses for each 800.4. Again, they're not fully positioned yet, but they're going to go right there. So if you have to access fuses, which is pretty unlikely, we really have never had one that had a blown fuse. If it does, it's because there's a short somewhere or something is wrong. But anyways, regardless, you pull your cover off, it's going to be right here. So if you're in the middle of a freeway or something, it'll be right there. Our quick disconnects, and they'll be right here. They're not finalized. They're just kind of wire tied right there. So that's the configuration here. So the way we have this wired, we have one 800.4 sound digital, 4 channels, running 1, 2, 3, 4 MS Pro 65 mids. Okay, that's 132 watts at 12.6 volts going into each speaker. These speakers are 200 watts RMS each, yes. 132 watts, 12.6 volts. This bike's got 14.4 while in motion. So we're pushing more voltage than that. 150-ish. Sound digital is underrated. So these speakers are getting plenty of power. Guys, you don't have to throw tons of power. You have plenty of people call us all the time. Hey, I want to use a sound digital 1200.4. It's too much power. Too much power, guys, in our opinion. The speaker only takes 200 watts RMS max. That's it. We don't need to throw 300 watts into it. You're just going to have a failure faster. You're going to be out there. Just these systems we do, they don't come back with blown speakers, and they rock. They rock. And you'll hear this when we get it done. It will rock. I promise you that. So that's one 4 digital 4 channel amplifier. The next 800.4, we're going to take the 2 front channels, channels 1 and 2. We're going to run 1, 2, 3 horns on one channel, and 1, 2, 3 horns on the other channel. For channels 1 and 2, all the horns. Easily, not a problem. Channels 3 and 4, going to run both MP694 mids. Again, that's 150-ish watts going into each mid, and that's what they're rated, RMS. This bike will rock and thunder. So tomorrow we'll get another video with it, with the grills on it. But again, guys, I wanted to show you what we do. We also put a little thing on there, so in case the next guy, let's say this guy's out of town, something happens, somebody has to go back in here, he doesn't have to try to go crazy trying to figure this out. Because the last thing you want is people pulling all this stuff in and out, in and out, in and out. Like say we use ferrules. We recommend that on every single sound digital amplifier, guys. You don't really want to, you can, but we don't really recommend you run speaker wires directly into that and tighten it down. A lot of the reason for the sound digital failures is because people install them just that way. They don't get ferrules. You can get these on Amazon, guys. Maybe we'll start selling them for the amp specifically. We probably will do that because we offer the screws, we offer the separate things. You know, we offer a little bit of the sound deadening material, so when you cut the enclosure to fit the magnet on the MS Pro 65 mid. Listen, that's the way we recommend doing it, guys. Can you heat it up, a heat gun? Yes, you can, but understand this is what you're doing when you do it that way. For one, okay, let's say you heat that up with a heat gun. We're getting heat hot. You gotta, that speaker has to be forced. You have to put force into the speaker to get that molded plastic to mold out when you do that. Okay, so you're putting stress on the basket of the speaker. You really don't want to do that. You really do not want to do that. And on top of that, when that heated up portion cools down, it's going to cool down and rest right on that magnet and put stress on that speaker. And listen, you want this 6.5 to be a happy speaker when you're out in the freeway with all your buddies riding around. Because they're going to be hearing your bike. Your bike's going to be one of the loudest, if not the loudest bike out there. You do not want to have a failure. Keep your speaker happy. You're going to get happy music. You heat it up. You cut the hole. You put some soundproofing material. That magnet's not resting on anything. It's happy. There's no stress on the speaker. You don't have to force it in. Believe me when I say that, guys. It's those little things that make a difference. Again, this is 2 800.4s A 21 Road Glide. Understand 21s, the hole is a little bit smaller right here. Also in the fairing, we noticed that on this bike. 800.4, way out tucked up underneath there. And next 800.4 will be down right here, right here. So very clean setup. If you're going to do 1200.4s, or if we add a DSP, yes, we're going to use Lex Rivera amplifier rack. We'll custom mount it inside here, and there's modifications that need to be done for that. But customers didn't want to do that, and it's okay because we made it work without it. But if you got 21 Road Glide or 15 and up Road Glide, that's how you get two 800.4s in that fairing. So this is our first bike that we showed how we do our wiring. We're very proud of our wiring, guys. We take a lot of time to do it. We had lots of customers come in here and say, hey, man, they want their bike done in 1 day, 2 days. I got to tell you, we'll turn those jobs away. There's no way I'm going to work on a $35,000 motorcycle and do this in 1 day at this level of work. I don't really believe it's possible. And I don't really want to rush on a brand new motorcycle. You know, we prep it. Sometimes we got dual layers of tape. You know, you can never be too careful. You can never be too careful, guys. Anything can happen. A tool could drop. A socket could drop. Who knows what could happen? We try to avoid the best we can. We've been very lucky. There's 3 fender covers on this wheel. It's 1, 2, well, it was 3. Oh, the fender's taped. It's got 1 fender cover, 2 fender covers, because, hey, this amp is resting right there. I mean, hey, it doesn't take much to dent something. So we take our caution in how we work on bikes. So if you guys have any questions, 702 Motoring Las Vegas, 702-335-0000. Talk to you soon.